that's wrong. You're eating disgusting dead animal flesh. It's bad. And this is what I think about. There's a very puritanical streak to veganism. Bart calls it misanthropic. You know, um, life is messy and cruel and confusing and painful, right? And there are a lot of things that happen in life that are just gross and we don't like, and we can't shield ourselves from this. Like, I'm looking out of my backyard. I live in a very lovely area, suburb of New York. I could see a hawk swoop down, grab a chipmunk, fly away with it, right? Animals eat and this is the circle of life.
Kathy, how did you find carnivore?
Um, well, it was a very long road. I've been carnivore for about 4 or 5 years now, and I'm 59. So it really started through veganism, but to go way, way back, I have been interested in nutrition and just focused on what I eat since I was a kid. I was a fat kid. I was teased because I was fat, and this was in the 70s when it was, no one cared about political correctness. They just call you fatso and all that. They didn't think it was beautiful to be fat or whatever. And also, not a lot of kids were fat back then. So I was fat. I always felt bad about what I ate. I did overeat. I was very, very unhappy child. And then when I was in middle school or junior high, what we call it, I was anorexic. And then I got even more depressed and bounced back from that. And then I got heavy. And then I'm a very small woman. I'm 5'2". I'm just small frame. So when I was anorexic, I was 82 pounds. And then I went up in high school to 140, which was a big, big jump. And I was never morbidly obese, but I was just fat. And then when I was in between junior and senior year in high school, I just starved myself. And because I just ate breakfast and then I had a Coke. I mean, you don't know. This is the 70s. You don't know. You just starve yourself. And then I got down to 120. And I was dumpy, but I was okay. No one was, I didn't stand out as like a fat person. And I hovered there for a while. I went through college and I was just eating basically standard American. And during this time, late 70s, early 80s, it was all just, really low fat, calories, everything's calories. And then I got out of college and I had some time to try to get healthy. And I decided I'm going to be a health nut. Okay. I'm going to be a health nut. And I was sick of being 120. I knew that I was small. I knew that there could be less of me. And I really wanted less of me, but I couldn't get below that 118, no matter how I starved myself. So I brought a visual here. This is, look, it fell off. It's so old. This is from like 88. Jane Brody's Good Food Cookbook, Living the High Carbohydrate Way. Okay. And she was Jane Brody, very well respected, the health editor of the New York Times, right? So how could she be wrong? So I read, and it's all carbs, no fat, watch the meats. And I did that. And I lost the weight. I lost the weight. I broke that 118 and I got down to like 104, 105, around there. And I was slender. And as long as I really watched myself, watching myself constantly about what I ate, I was able to be around there. And then I just went in and out as my life changed. I went to graduate school, and when you're young, you can get away with a lot. I ate mixed macro diet, and then I got a job, and then I decided, again, I got back to interest in health. And I was, again, just watching myself, watching my calories. And I've discovered this book. It was a colleague who gave it to me. This book, okay? The Hippocrates Diet by Anne Wigmore, right? This was this lady. It's kind of like a hippie diet. All natural, live foods, okay? Because did you know that when you cook a food, you kill it, okay? That there are live enzymes in food. Now, they don't die the minute they hit your stomach acid. No. That'd be wrong. they give you, they give you life. Okay. So this is eating sprouted wheatgrass, these sprouts. This is when the sprout craze came from this, because it's living plants and all other foods are dead. She made wheatgrass, juicing wheatgrass popular. And I don't know if you've ever had wheatgrass. It is the most vile liquid that you could ever imagine. I mean, I'd rather drink piss. And something called Rejuvelac, another vile liquid, which is made from fermenting sprouted grains and having it sit on your windowsill for a week. And then you like, oh, it's disgusting. Okay. But this is what you do to be healthy. And there was some truth. Okay. She hated processed foods and all. Yeah. That's absolutely correct. But this idea that only live raw foods is enough to nourish you is kind of crazy. But when you're young, you can kind of get away with all kinds of eating when you're young. And I got really thin. I got below 100. You cannot sustain raw veganism. It's just impossible. And I remember there was a social event that I was at once where there was just everything was cooked, but at least I couldn't even get a vegetarian dish. I had to get like a chicken shish kebab or something. And I took a bite of the chicken and I felt, oh my God. I felt like, I'm coming back to life. But I'm thinking, no, that's a bad feeling. I was made to think that's bad. Okay. Because those are bad feelings. That's wrong. You're eating disgusting dead animal flesh. It's bad. And this is what I think about. There's a very puritanical streak to veganism. Bart calls it misanthropic. Life is messy and cruel and confusing and painful, right? And there are a lot of things that happen in life that are just gross and we don't like, and we can't shield ourselves from this. Like, I'm looking out of my backyard. I live in a very lovely area, suburb of New York. I could see a hawk swoop down, grab a chipmunk, fly away with it, right? Animals eat and this is the circle of life. Animals eat other animals. This is their thing. It's messy and it's sad. Yeah, but it happens. And I think and I was this person. I was the kind of person who, to deal with my feelings of hunger, feel like sexual urges, feelings of wanting to shield myself from cruelty. The thing is, you just shove it away. You just repress it. You say, no. Instead of dealing with it in a healthy way, confronting it and learning to live in a civilized way with your animal nature. And I think veganism, especially raw veganism, attracts a lot of these people who just can't deal with the realities of life, the messy, painful, cruel realities of life. And they just want to shove those feelings away and repress them. So that was, and then I don't know what happened. Then lots of other things. I got married. I had 2 kids. During this time, when things change in your life, I went back to mixed macro diet, always just like watching myself. I got up, hovered around like 115. Then when my kids got a little older, I started to get back into being a health nut, and I slowly evolved back into veganism. And then some other, and just to lose weight, really, for me, it was always about that number on the scale. I got to be under 110, or, whether I'm bad, there's something wrong with me, and, I'm a glutton or a pig, or, there are bad foods, meat is bad, anything that tastes good is bad. And the crazy thing about veganism, I was trying to gain muscle. Okay. I knew that I was jogging and being a vegan, getting really skinny, but I looked at myself and I wasn't happy with the way I looked. So I looked like a flabby skeleton, just like bag of bones with some fat. Like, I need muscle, right? I need to get muscle. So I'm going to start adding more protein to my diet. So getting a lot of protein on a vegan diet is very, very difficult. And it's nearly impossible. And at one point, I looked down at this crazy breakfast that I concocted. Uh, it was ground lupini beans, okay, some almond protein powder, some pistachio milk, okay, some dried goji berries, and some stevia on top just to make it palatable. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. This is just bullshit. I've had it. This is bizarre. These foods are bizarre. You can't, this is not a way to eat. It just, there was one, this was actually my favorite lunch, my vegan lunch. I called it Turds in the Meadow. Okay, Turds in the Meadow. This is my Turds in the Meadow. It was a huge bowl of raw kale. Okay. Now, to make the raw kale palatable, you had to massage the kale. Okay. You had to massage it. This is what vegans do. They massage their kale with a dressing made of nut butters, all this, soy sauce, whatever the crap. You massage it, massage it, massage it so it like wilts, so you can just choke it down, okay? And then you let it sit so it wilts in this like oily mess. And then I put some dried cranberries on it just to make it somewhat palatable. So there's a little sweet in it. And then my protein were these strips of tempeh, which are fermented soybeans, this Indonesian fermented, that I had to marinate in soy sauce and bake just to make it palatable. So it looked like duty, poo-poo, it like cow turds that you would encounter in a field. And this was my Turds in the Meadow lunch. Okay, this is my vegan high protein lunch. This is just crap. After you just had it, like this is not, no human like group of human beings ever ate like this. It's just not a way to eat. There were always things that bothered me about veganism other than the self-hatred and the denial of reality. I mean, that's one. I always knew there was never a population that just lived on vegetables alone. They just didn't exist. So that bothered me. It also bothered me, meat has been around for a really long time. And you look back 100 years when you see these old people weren't fat eating meat, and I'm still always thinking about the weight on the scale. Like this always bothered me. So I started to open myself up and I started with like, maybe, I think it was Gabrielle Lyon was the first one who is, these women bodybuilders. Like, how do they get muscle? And she said, look, it's really hard to build muscle and to get enough protein without some kind of animal protein. It just isn't. And so I started to slowly add a little. Now, I've heard of the keto and carnivore way before, and I thought it was the most outrageous thing I ever heard. I thought it was insane the way people, I mean, this is crazy. I bought into all of that, the blue zones and, this McDougall starch solution, we're starchivores, and this Dean Ornish, eat more, weigh less. Oh, he's, the vegan idea to fill your belly with as much indigestible cellulose as possible. Okay. That's what you do. And that makes you full. Now that makes you bloated and undernourished. And then you can eat as much as you want. Eat as much indigestible vegetable plant matter as you want. Well, great. The reason you have to eat every 3 hours is you're not getting nourished. One of my favorite sayings is when there's too much, something is missing. Okay. You have to eat so much because you're just not getting enough. And there's no meaningful nutrition really in any of this. They think there is. I think the vegan world, I think they mean well. I don't think that they're evil people. And I don't think, vegetables are homicidal maniacs out to kill us. I just think that there is meaningful nutrition in meat, and there's no real need to cut it out of your diet. I don't think it's bad. So what I started with slowly is egg whites, very, very safe egg whites. Then indulgently, I put a little egg yolk. I'm like, wow. Now, I always loved meat. I love butter. I loved eggs, but I thought, oh, those are bad. Those are bad, bad, bad foods. I would look at them I would go to the meat section and just kind of look, oh, like, I look at the pastries. I'm like, bad, 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 So, and then slowly, it took me like a year. I started within chicken breast and then bison, which is a lean meat, and then beef. And now I'm just eating meat and I'm doing great. I documented how I looked on a mixed macro diet, on a vegan diet, and then on a carnivore diet. And even when I was a vegan, I was working out with weights and doing resistance training. And you could see how scrawny I am on the vegan diet. And I gained 10 pounds. So I weighed myself for this occasion. I was curious. I don't tend to weigh myself, but I got down as a vegan to like 103, and now I'm about 113. And I'm still within, normal BMI. I'm fine, but I've got some musculature and I'm strong. I'm very active. I resistance train 3 times a week. I walk an average of 10,000 steps a day, and I do hot yoga like 3 or 4 times a week. So I'm very active and I sleep well, and I just really enjoy this way of eating now, and I don't overeat. And another thing I'd like to stress is that, well, I always thought meat was a bad food in the same category as like candy and pastry and breads and pasta and all of that. But it isn't. Meat is an extremely nourishing, natural food. And when you bite into a piece of meat, you get meaningful nutrition. And it feels good, and then you stop when you're done. But when you bite into some kind of high carb, high fat piece of candy or piece of cake, you get a dopamine hit. It's nothing like the feeling of eating a piece of nutritious meat. And that dopamine hit, you can never satisfy that. So I don't like the fact that, meat is put into this category of bad food along. This is what the vegans do. It's meat, cheese, candy, baked goods, cupcakes. It's all crap. It isn't. Meat is a nutritious food. If you look at the nutritional content of meat, it's a very nutritious food. You look at a brown rice, there's like nothing in it. There's nothing in it that's good for you. Even like an apple that you get from the grocery store, it's been sitting there in storage for how long? There's no meaningful nutrition even in that. People think, oh, it's good for you, it's fruit, but it's like fiber, water, and sugar. There's very little vitamins or minerals in most fruit. So yeah, that's my experience. It was by way of veganism that I got to carnivore, like a lot of people do.
I'm really interested to know, like, what was the feeling of going from, eating turds in the meadow to eating steaks? I mean, that so many. I mean, of course, you probably get that, like you say, you get that dopamine hit when you're eating the meat and stuff like that.
No,
And
from the
feel like
carbs you get the dopamine.
Oh yeah, sorry.
From the
You
steak you
get that
feel
kind of,
good. Yeah.
yeah, you feel good, you feel nourished, you feel like I'm actually feeding my body.
Mm-hmm.
But on a practical level, what was the difference?
It was really, really terrifying at first. I thought, all right, I could give myself a heart attack. And because I've been listening to a bunch of YouTubers, and they could be a bunch of crackpots, they're just YouTubers, but it was scary as I took it slowly. And I just want to trust the process. Hey, I've been doing all this for the past 30 years and it wasn't working. What can I do? I'll try it. And if I don't like it, I can quit. But there were so many other things that happened too. I noticed that when I would walk, I would always get this twinge in my hip. It was, I know that's a little, in some scans I've had, there was a little deterioration in my hip. And sometimes I'd walk, like a boom, just like a quick little, like, ouch, and then it would go away. And that just disappeared. I haven't had that in years. Okay. And another thing, I think even the biggest thing I noticed was my depressive outlook kind of, it kind of dissolved a little bit. Now, I've never been a happy person, miserable since the day I was born. Okay. I just thought that was my personality. Okay. And nothing is going to make me Miss Sunshine ever. Okay. That's just, however, I was always like low level depression. I never needed medications. I was just depressive and just negative, cynical, angry, ruminating over things in the past and just that reel in my head. I mean, I would be driving. I live in a very lovely area of Westchester County, New York. We have beautiful forests and all this wildlife and lovely reservoirs. And I'd be driving and I'd see this lovely patch of landscape and say, oh yeah, you know what? That'd be like a good place to go kill myself. Like, that's what I would think. Like, oh, that's a nice secluded place. I know what I'll do. I'll sneak out in the middle of the night and I can go there and I can jump in the reservoir and drown myself. Like, all right. And to me, that was normal. That was like a normal thought. Because I just be, I mean, to me, that was just like, that's just me just being like, my life is crappy and I'm a crappy person. And this is like, what's the point? And those feelings, I don't feel like that anymore. I don't have those. I don't have that. It was such a part of my life. I didn't even realize that it's not normal because it was my internal like dialogue all the time. Even, I had kids, I had a job and I had a husband, I had all this stuff to do. And I would just, I take the kids to play in the park. I'm like, oh, that's a good spot. I could like hang myself off that tree. I'm like, that was just, and that just went away. And that's I think of all the things that happened, it wasn't what I was aiming for because I didn't think that I was depressed. I thought that was just normal. I just thought life sucked and I suck and my life sucks and then you die. But then when I'm like, and now looking back at when all the points where I was the most depressed, and there were times in my 30s when I was just really bad. I connect the dots now. That's when I started the raw veganism, when I just went like that. And I know, yeah, there's so much more to it than just the weight on the scale. I really think the mental health benefits of eating meat are just like the best, the most important of all. It's incredible. And I had no idea. This isn't why I got into it. I got into it to build muscle and to look better. But my whole outlook has improved. My skin has gotten better. You don't even notice. I'm like, hey, I haven't had these rough patches. I don't little things like that. You notice that after a while.
So, I mean, that you've probably gone from like ruminating and more a pessimistic outlook to actually thinking more about the future now. Is that
just enjoying my life? Yeah. I mean, I do think, but I don't have these this suicidal ideation. I never was really going to do it, but it's just I like to daydream about these. I daydream about all the things. It's not about killing myself. I enjoy my life. There's a lot of pleasurable things in my life. I like my exercise. I love my yoga. I enjoy my family. I enjoy my dog. There's so many things I enjoy, and I'm not such a negative person. I mean, like I said, I'm not the happiest person in the world still, but I'm not like this down in the dumps suicidal person, just waiting for life to end, which is how I used to be.
That's great. So how have your family felt about the way you're eating? Have they joined you? Have they support you?
All right. Well, my girls are grown and they're out of the house, and I don't really care what they think. Not that they would look up from their phones to even notice anything. So that's them. I don't care. My husband, he is, he's heavy and he's trying to lose weight. He uses a CPAP machine. He has, some issues, and he's on board with low carb. He understands because he went to a diet doctor once who put him on a low carb diet and it worked for him. He knows pasta and bagels and pizza and sweets and ice cream. Those are not. but he really is extremely hostile toward this way of eating and is giving me a lot of crap about it. He thinks it's horrible. He thinks I'm going to have a heart attack. He yells at me. We get into fights about it. Um, I just tell him to go to hell, you know? Um, he, I love red meat and I don't mind eating it. And he doesn't like it. I'll give him a filet mignon. He'll eat a filet mignon, which is a 6 ounce filet mignon, and he'll examine it and pick out any kind of white streak that he'll see, and he'll cut it out and like try, me. I'll even eat 6 of them and put butter on them. He just thinks this way is disgusting. Way of eating is disgusting, and fatty meat is going to kill you, and I'm going to have a heart attack, and blah blah. I had a CAC. I had like a couple of years ago. It was 1. All right. So that was after being carnivore for a couple of years. I had like a carotid artery scan and it was like 100% clear. I don't have any issues. I really don't. We've been married for over 20 years. So you just have a way of dealing with your spouse on, certain things. And I said, just don't listen. We're not going to talk about this anymore. And when we go, on a trip, and I said, look, if you make one comment about what I order at the restaurant, I'm going to get up and walk out. Okay. And all right, so you got to stop. And now I have my imaginary hearing aid. And when he starts, I go, boop, and I just don't listen because he gives me looks. He goes, you really have to eat that. You really have to eat meat every day. I'm like, yeah. What do you ever got a problem with it? Just, and then I just like turn it off. And I try to like maybe do my cooking when he's not around so he doesn't have to smell it and complain about it and stuff like that. So, I mean, he, like I said, he's on board with low carb, but he thinks fatty meat is just disgusting and repulsive and no one should ever eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand his feeling about fatty meat just because the way I was brought up, I was like that with fat. I remember as a kid cutting the fat off the bacon, cutting any little bit of fat off the steak. And, now for me, it's the best part. But, it's just
I've
as we're
tried,
growing up.
I said, educate yourself. I sent him video links. I said, and he thinks again, you listen to a bunch of crackpots on YouTube and you're going to have a heart attack and die. And you're doing that because because you hate yourself and that's why you're trying to die, eating all this crappy stuff. Oh, please. I said, I feel great. I feel great. Look at all the stuff I'm doing and I feel great. And
yeah,
I can't, I've given up.
Yeah.
I've only gotten so far with him, so it's all right.
Yeah. If you go out with your friends or whatever for lunch, is it relatively easy for you to just get a
Yeah, I
steak
mean,
or whatever?
quite frankly, I don't have too many friends. I don't go out to eat too much. But yeah, I mean, it's very easy to eat this way. There's so many options on any menu. You get a piece of chicken, get a piece of steak on a salad, or if I have to eat a salad, it's more like, my husband gives me the most resistance, but no one else notices. And I don't make big proclamations about my food choices.
Has anyone asked you like, you're looking great, what are you doing? How do I start or anything like that?
No, not too much because we don't really have too many interactions with other people. We kind of work for ourselves. I go to the gym and I go to the yoga studio, and I don't people. If I'm all bundled up, no one really sees me, and I actually gained weight. I think I look better. Finally, I'm at a point where I'm not. It's not all about the number on the scale. The lower the number, the better. I gained 10 pounds, but I look better. Like I filled out. I mean, when I put on my pants, yeah, they're tighter on the butt and the thigh because I've developed some muscle there. I'm really working on that, but I'm able to close them, and the waist hasn't gotten any bigger. So, yeah, I'm.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, how do you eat at the moment? Are you OMAD, TUMAD?
I started with OMAD just to see when I began. when I started with carnivore, just to push myself, because to me, eating one meal a day sounded completely outrageous. That was just so foreign to me, as was eating carnivore was just outrageous to me. But right now, I do like 18 to 22 hours. I'll eat breakfast and lunch. My day is very front loaded. I get up like between 4 and 5, and I'll have have a cup of coffee, black coffee, do my exercise, come home, have like some kind of egg based first meal, and my second meal would usually be some kind of meat. And as I taught myself how to massage kale, okay, I taught myself how to cook meat. And at first, I was very scared because I thought, oh no, I'm going to buy an expensive piece of meat, I'm going to ruin it. But I learned, you learn. I learned sous vide, I grilled, learned how to like sous vide a steak and then finished it off on the cast iron. I love eating off the bone. I love ribs, lamb chops, veal chops. I make bone broth in the Instant Pot, and I take all the marrow from the bones and all the like the meat solids, and I puree it back into the broth, so it's a really, really nutritious liquid. And I'll have that for breakfast with some eggs. And yeah, I make it interesting. I use a little. I really have no real problems with vegetables. Like I don't have oxalate problems or any of that. I'm definitely allergic to avocados. I cannot go near an avocado. I've had to have very, very bad allergic reactions, and to some other vegetables. But I don't have an issue using aromatics like garlic and herbs just to flavor, things. That doesn't bother me.
You started over 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So someone watching this might be thinking, oh, this way of eating sounds good. I'd like to get healthier. But I can't imagine more than 4 years of eating just meat or just meat and eggs. What would you say to them?
It's not, when you think about it like that, once you experience it, it's a pleasure. I don't miss, first of all, bad foods are just bad for you. You should never eat them. Any kind of processed food, any kind of ground up grain, sugar, seed oil, they can take those three ingredients and make everything from fake meat to cookies. Like those should never be eaten ever. Okay. So just all right. If you want to eat vegetables, like I said, I don't think vegetables are evil. If you can tolerate them, eat them. But vegetables and meat are healthful. I mean, meat is a healthful food. You don't need to cut it out of your diet. It should really be the basis of your nutrition, because vegetables and fruits, they're not as nutritious as people think. They're pretty much devoid of nutrition, really. I mean, what has more iron, like a cup of spinach or a steak? I mean, come on. It's just, we've been misinformed about the nutritional value of vegetables. There's not really much there that you can really absorb.
That's one of the really kind of important things for people to understand, right? Is we have been misled about how much in the way of vitamins and nutrients we're getting from vegetables, because there's so many things in the vegetables or the fruits that are competing with the absorption of, competing to stop the absorption of those
Mm-hmm.
nutrients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that cellulose, we're not meant to, we can't digest it. Meat is made to be digested, and we can see that it doesn't make its way to our colon. Vegans just say, "Oh, that meat rots in your colon." I'm like, if anything rots in your colon, is indigestible plant matter. The meat doesn't even get there. There was this vegan cartoon of someone watching a gorilla eat like off a branch, and the gorilla is mighty and muscular, and the person says to the gorilla, "But where do you get your protein?" But so this is what the vegan mentality is that, like, these big muscular animals, we're just like them. Like, no, we're not. The primates have very different digestive systems. They have to eat vegetables all day, and their abdomens are huge, and they have that cecum that, we don't have anymore or whatever. Cows have multi-chambered stomachs. They're able to eat vegetable matter and turn it into all that muscle. Do you think if we humans just ate grass all day that we would be all jacked? Like, it's ridiculous. We're not made. That's a big misunderstanding that the vegan propaganda talks about. It's like, look at all these big, strong animals, and that we're primates too. Well, we're not really. Our digestive systems are very different from those big primates. So
Yeah.
for anyone saying, "Oh, you'll meat all day," it's not a big deal. You have eggs for breakfast and steak for lunch. What's wrong with that? If you want a salad on the side, fine. What do you want? Special K with almond milk. You prefer that? Go ahead. There's no nutrition in that.
There's probably more nutrition in the box that they come in.
Oh God, yeah. I'd rather eat the box and more flavor too. Ugh.
So, how would you recommend someone start, especially if they're coming from a plant-based diet as you did? Is transitioning in better?
You have to do it the way it's best for you. You have to think about why you want to change. That's what I thought. I'm like, I'm not building muscle. I don't look good. I look scrawny and undernourished. And then so you start with the foods that you like. Eggs were really easy for me. I don't have a problem with eggs. So I just started with eggs. And then I just built up to chicken, white meat chicken. I felt that was okay. And then now I'll just eat like chicken thighs. I don't like white meat. But you just find the foods that you like and do it as slowly as you need to. If it's scary, because it was scary. It really was when you're so filled with the vegan propaganda of the eat more, weigh less crowd, and all that eating, we're made to eat starch and all of that. And the fat you eat is the fat you wear. That's another McDougalism that I bought also. So it was scary. So I did it slowly. And you just have to think about why you're doing it and then take it from there. Everybody's different. I want to say just another thing that I look now, like I'm in the yoga world and I go up to this ashram. I've been going up for like 30 years and I see my yoga teachers who are hardcore vegetarians and they are breaking down. Now, you think yoga would keep your body young and supple. My favorite yoga teacher, has such painful arthritis that he can't teach anymore. And he says he's on painkillers every day. And he's like a strict vegetarian. And it just makes me sad, to see that. But I think when I think about all the misery and the grief and the pain that this standard American diet, not just the vegetables, not just the whole food plant-based crowd, but just the processed food that I grew up eating, the breakfast cereal, which I think is just evil because it's sold to children, breakfast cereal, soda, candy, cookies, all this processed junk that everybody eats every day and doesn't even think about it. They think that's just what food is. Think about all the unnecessary pain and grief that's caused. It's just such a tragedy. And we can turn it around. And that's what I like to see. Just people just go back to eating whole, real food and not anything with these seed oils or flour, grains, just all the soy, this factory made crap that it just isn't food. And it doesn't nourish you and it makes you sick. Think about all the diabetes and the limbs that were been amputated and the blindness and obesity. It's just horrible. And it's just, people think it's just normal. It's not normal.
According to Harvard, that, diabetes and the amputation of limbs, that's all down to red meat consumption.
It's so ridiculous. Oh yeah. And then the Tufts school saying that Lucky Charms are better for you than eggs. I mean, I don't even think most people even believe that. You just have to laugh at it. I don't know. It's just such a tragedy, and it's not political. It doesn't matter whether you're right wing or left wing. None of this matters. Just eat whole natural food and do not demonize meat. It is a very nutritious food. There's no reason to cut it out of your diet. That's what I just want to say. What I wish I could tell everybody if they believe me.
Very well said. So, Kathy, do you have a YouTube or an Instagram if people want to reach
No,
out
I
to you?
don't. I have, I do some YouTubing for my professional life. It has nothing to do with this whatsoever. Um, but I just like to watch a lot of the YouTubers. I'm a follower of them. I'm on all the message boards on the Ken Berry site and the Steak and Butter Gang and the Two Crazy Ketos on their Mighty Networks. And I participate, but I don't really feel like I have anything more to add. Everyone is doing so much. I don't really have anything more to add. I just like to watch and to participate on the message boards.
So, Kathy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I
Okay,
really
you're
appreciate
welcome.
your time.
Thank you. Oh, give my regards to Belle Shine, by the way.
Will do.
Yeah,
Cheers.
very nice to speak to you. Bye bye.